Thank you to everyone that has taken the time to join us tonight. Basically, what I will be going through is, I guess, it's probably more, of the important or relevant information from the Institute program, relevant to you guys as advanced female coaches or interested in that pathway. And then Lisa Warrener will jump on at the end. For those of you that don't know Lisa on the call, Lisa is one of our most experienced coaches. And I say that without any reference to age. Lisa's been involved in Football New South Wales programs for a long time and has coached at all levels of the game, including, the A-League women as well as national teams as well. So Lisa will provide some insight into, I guess, what, the history and the development and evolution of what the program used to be to what it is today. So with that, just a quick introduction for those that may not be overly familiar with what we do or what the Institute program is about. So it is a full-time program for talented girls in New South Wales. The prime focus of the Institute program is to support the ongoing development of our talented New South Wales female athletes to progress to the next level. So we have a development environment for talented youth footballers. We have a key integration and alignment with the FA's national team program and coaches. So that being the Future Matildas program, the Junior Matildas program, Young Matildas program, and ultimately the full Matildas. And obviously with the coaches involved in that being Leah Blaney and Ray Gower. So the objectives of the program is that we want to develop technically proficient players. So for the most part, we do look at developing our players from an individual perspective. However, we do start to introduce some team characteristics, as obviously it is important for them to progress to that next level. So we look at the technical aspect from an individual perspective, and then we look at the position-specific understanding from both the individual and the team perspective. Again, we want to develop junior, young Matildas and future Matildas, and we establish principles of play that do align with FA. So again, our objective is to get as many girls from our program into those national team programs. So we do have a very good collaborative relationship with FA and FA staff. So the structure of the program, again, you see at the top there, the FA technical director and national team coaches we work with. So within the Institute program, we now have 6 teams. Previously it was 5. We now have the 6 teams, so those 6 age groups there, the 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, 17s and 18s. We do have a head coach and an assistant coach for all of those age groups. We also have a girls goalkeeper coach, and another position that's not mentioned in this table is we have a head of strength and conditioning as well. The alignment or the connection there is with the TSP, the girls TSP program. So again, we want to work as collaboratively as we can with those girls TSP coaches to make sure that we're providing talented players within that program with opportunities to move into the Institute program. And here's the integrated talented player pathway. So the diagram, I guess, again, speaks for itself. So we have our MPL squads moving into either the girls TSP or Institute, and then ultimately then onto the future Matildas or state team opportunities. So with our talent identification, we look for visible and discrete signs of talent. So the visible signs of talent are obviously, around technique or understanding of the game. And we look at things that, I guess, separate one player from another in terms of the quality of being able to perform certain characteristics of what we're looking for the program. And then the discrete signs of talent are things around, potentially what their attitude is like off the park. So when we are IDing at games or tournaments or anything like that, sometimes we can't see these signs of talent, and that would be attitudes and behaviours off the park, or it might be the potential that the player has that isn't there yet, but is in the making and potentially a talented player down the track. So again, just the integrated talented player pathway and connection to obviously our MPL, SAP, Girls TSP, as well as the opposite direction with our national teams. We need to remain visible, and that goes without saying, in a sense of we need to be visible out there in NPL land, in SAP space, to bring these players and work with technical directors and coaches within those spaces to bring girls through the pathway, so through the Girls TSP and then into the Institute program, just to make sure that, we are providing, talented girls out there with these opportunities and to make sure that these girls aren't being missed in the process. So just a few points here in terms of player development, which I'll go through each one individually and in a little bit more detail. So what's really big for us is creating good habits within our players. So as you can see, there's some off-field things, so being prepared, being on time. All of our players have a prehab program, or an individualized prehab program that's created from our S&C coach. So those girls are required to be at training 15 to 20 minutes earlier. Their prehab needs to be completed before they step foot on the field, not to take away from them the football side of things. And then the on-field habits, so scanning, first touch, being able to use both feet. Again, that's a big one for us in terms of preparing them for that next level. We want them to be both-footed and be able to, complete actions on the field using both feet. So this one, again, is another big one for us and is really important, is the athlete wellbeing and engagement side of things. So we do work with FA in this regard. We work with the Women's National Wellbeing Manager, Janet Dracos. So we work with her in terms of developing a framework that will be, distributed across all member federations, so Football New South Wales being ours. It will include off-field education and engagement, seminars and workshops. All of this is based on building the player holistically and developing the player holistically. So we want to treat this athlete well-being part of the program with as much respect and time as the football. We also have a chaplain that is provided to us by Sports Chaplaincy Australia. This is actually a service that you can probably implement or use, in your own environments as well. And if you want any information on that, please feel free to reach out to me and I can put you in touch with our member protection officer. So Sports Chaplaincy Australia provides us with a chaplain that is present at training sessions and games where possible. She is a sounding board. She is someone that is there to support the players. That's a little bit different to a coach. Sometimes players may not, feel comfortable in talking to a coach about certain things. They might think it's going to affect their progression or affect their field time. So having the chaplain in is really good for us, and it not only helps the player, but the chaplain is also there for parents as well as coaching staff. So just a brief program overview. So as you can see here from this slide is that we do treat each of the age groups differently in respect to what stage they are at in their football career. So with our under 13s and under 14s, the primary focus is on skill acquisition and the core skills. We begin to bridge the gap between skill acquisition and game training phase, and multiple positions are played. So as an example, with our under 13s for next year, we do have a goalkeeper that wants to still experience, being on the field and being a field player. So she will actually play both, in goals and on the field as well. With our under 15s and 16s, we start to focus a little bit more on the game training phase, integrating individual principles and skill to the team, beginning to prepare the athletes for the next level. And obviously that next level from that age group is potentially the junior Matildas, or even the future Matildas program. Under 17s and 18s program, we start to look a little bit more on the performance phase of things, mastering individual and team principles, master 2 to 3 positions. Again, we don't want to streamline one player to only play one position. We want them, in terms of preparing them for that next level, we need to make sure that they're, mastering a couple of positions at least, so that they look they're in a better position to then progress to that next level. And then our goalkeeping program. So ultimately, again, it's around, the technique, and it is individual based for that goalkeeper specific training. But our goalkeeper coach will work with the head coaches and also look at it from a tactical or a game training perspective as well, and how we integrate those goalkeepers into what we're doing from a tactical perspective. So just some of our training and game policies, again, that we feel only adds to the progression of the players and the development of the girls. So we do allow we allow all of our girls if they want to, but only some of them do, is that they will train with boys. So what will happen in that respect is that they will be with us, they'll play games with us, they'll be registered with us, but we will allow them to miss one institute session to go and train with a boys team once a week. So again, I think everyone on the call will understand the benefits that comes from the girls training with boys and also playing against boys or with boys. So, which brings me to my next point. We organise boys trial games. So mostly throughout the season, obviously we're playing in the women's competition on the weekend, but we will organise separate trial games throughout the week against boys. So again, it just increases their ability to make decisions a lot quicker, and increases just the pace of the game in general for these girls. Our under 17s and 18s teams will be involved in the boys TSP program. So they're included in the under 14s boys TSP program. So that includes games on, I think it's every second Monday night throughout the term. Other sports we encourage. So as an example, even futsal. So we will allow our girls to miss one institute session to play futsal, or it may be, some of our girls, they might have AFL, they might have basketball. But again, we see the benefit that other sports can provide our players. So skills that are required in other sports that we may not train in our players can definitely be brought across and provide a huge benefit for the girls playing our game. Just with the 18 player squads, so obviously we can only have 16 on the team sheet on match days. During trial games and things like that, all 18 players will play, but where we can only have, obviously in the competition, we can only have the 16 players named in the squad for that day. The other 2 players will have tasks to complete on the sideline. So that might be, watching a player from their own team. It might be watching a player from the opposition team. It might be checking, touches on the ball, or it might be a tactical thing where, we ask them to look at the set pieces from the opposition and just provide a little bit of feedback. But it also allows them to still learn and develop while sitting, I guess, on the sideline, so to speak. From a performance analysis perspective, so we do video analysis. We have accessible footage, so we film all of our matches and we provide every single match to both players and coaches. We encourage the girls to do their own self-assessment and self-directed learning through watching themselves and watching their own game. And it also provides the coaching staff to do some performance analysis with the girls, either in a group setting, so in a team meeting, or it might be individualized. So it might be the coach spending 5 minutes before a training session after a match, going through some individual feedback for a particular player. So we do quite a bit of performance analysis, and I think it's really important for them to look at their games, assess, the way that they played the game or areas that they can improve. But it also helps our coaching staff to make sure that, we are picking up on gaps or things that the girls need to do a little bit more of. So as an example, it might be opening up on the left. We're always playing down the right because everyone's right-footed, so it might be opening up on the left a lot more. So we can start to implement that into our training sessions and make sure that we're addressing the issues and preparing the girls for that next level. So the principles of play that we look at, attacking principles, defending principles, attacking transition, and defending transition. So they're the 4 moments of the game that our coaching staff will base their game training sessions around. And these principles are established from both an individual and team perspective. So our coaching staff are provided with individual principles for every one of those moments, and they're also provided with team principles for every one of those moments as well, that they're required to incorporate into their training schedule, training plan. We do work with FA around these principles as well. So we want to be as consistent as we can to make sure that the principles that we are teaching the girls and developing are obviously going to help them at that next level and hopefully put them one step forward over another person to get that national team position. So again, systems of play is it's important for the girls to learn and understand different systems of play, especially, with us trying to prepare them for that next level, whether it be A-League women or whether it be a national team. They're going to play under different coaches. They're going to play against different opposition that may not play 1-4-3-3. So we can't, streamline them into, well, we don't want to streamline them into only knowing and understanding one system. But this is basically how we stagger it. So all of our teams will learn 1-4-3-3 or slight variation 4-1-4-1. Our under 13s will only do that system. So they'll only learn that system for their first year in the program. And then as we start to move up the ages, so as you can see there, 14s will do 1-4-4-2, 15s and 16s will look at 1-3-5-2, and with our 17s and 18s, it's the coach's choice. So again, we're looking at that performance phase for those age groups. So that's ultimately the coach's decision. It will depend on the players available as to what formation they might, choose to play. And I guess the expectation is that for the players that have come through the program from that under 13s is that they've at least got a little bit of a taste of what each of those systems looks like. And then just quickly with our coaching criteria. So head coach is a B license minimum, A license preferred, assistant coach C license minimum, goalkeeper coach level 1 goalkeeper license. They're just some of the characteristics that we look at in terms of employment of our coaches. On the right is the eligibility policy. I'm not going to read all that out, and I don't expect you to look at it in too much depth. But if you want any further information, again, just please contact me. I'm happy to talk you through what the criteria is and the eligibility. And all of our coaches are subject to stringent regulatory checks and must have the relevant child safety and member protection certificate. So, so that's basically just a quick summary of what our expectation is for coaches being part of our elite environment.
Hey guys. Just a bit background. I started working with Football NSW in the development programs for females in, I think, 2001. But to my knowledge, they started mid to late 90s. There's only one person on here that I can see, which is Hayley Todd, that would have some recollection of what those programs were like beforehand as a player. But there was the Jets program and there was a couple of other academies that were running. But as of 2001, when I joined, players played for their clubs still. Some players played in boys' teams, some players played in their local clubs. And to be honest, I think that was about the year that the under 12s age group even started in state league. Okay, so a lot of these players were not exposed to the top level. The regions operated, so it was Met South, Met North, Met West, Met East, Far North and Far South. And it was predominantly just a skills program. It was an optional thing that players could do. They did have to trial, so they did have to be selected to be in it, but the numbers were nowhere near what we'd see today. I can recall, I think in about 2004, driving an hour to Manly twice a week to coach 2 players in the North under 12s, one of which was Rachel Suter, who's gone on to play W League and Young Matildas, etc., etc. But just the numbers of players around in those days were nothing like they are today. So from 2001 for about 6 or 7 years, they just were coming in and basically doing skill development. There was not enough players to play games. There was not enough players to work on too much tactical side of things. The only thing we probably did use it for was we did use it for identification of players to call in to trial for state teams. Okay, so it did give us a bit of an idea. Some of the players, as I said, trial for these programs, they were only playing local park football. And by coming into these programs, we were able to identify them and get them involved with other elite players and then progress them on in the following years into the first grade state league. Things changed dramatically about 12 years ago with the introduction of the Project 22 concept, which some of you may be aware of. In the girls' space, we had 3 age groups, the 13s, 14s and 15s. And that was the first time Football NSW had their own teams. So players came in, were selected for a team and they played in competition as a team. Now, in those days, we played in the boys' competition. So 13s and 14s girls played in the boys' SAP program and the 15s girls played in NPL 1 boys. We played in the 13s boys' competition. Okay. At that stage, above under 15s were involved in New South Wales Institute of Sport, which predominantly in my time, Alan Stajic was the coach of that. So if he was short of players, and they also played in a boys competition midweek, if he was ever short of players or was looking to ID players, then he was borrowing players from the Project 22 system. I think roughly the similar timing to Project 22 discontinuing, the New South Wales Institute of Sport disbanded or dropped the football program from one of their sports. So that's when the Football New South Wales Institute started. And then we had, Nadine can correct me, I think we had about 4 age groups at that stage. I know we didn't have enough age groups to be able to compete in all of the girls' age groups. So we used to play additional games. There was times when we weren't actually in the competition, the girls' competition, but we played additional games, sometimes on Saturdays, sometimes midweek, to get the girls' game time. So that's the first time that the girls actually came in as team, and it's the first time the coaches were actually full-time coaches with Institute. Previous to that, all of the coaches in the development space were club coaches as well. Whether or not they were boys or girls with their club coaching, they weren't primarily employed by Football New South Wales. But when Project 22 came in, we had full-time coaches coming in to Project 22 and then the Institute. So since the start of the Institute program, I think, you know, going back the last 15 years, I think we did like 2 nights a week. Then we've gone to 3 nights a week. Probably about 7 or 8 years ago, we were 3 nights a week, and now we're 4 nights a week. We've had access to physios probably the last 10 years or so, but things like, as Nadine mentioned, the video, access to videos, access to wellbeing, the alignment with Football Australia and the national team coaches has all improved dramatically over the last 5 years. So the expectations of the players and the expectations of the coaches and the families involved has improved a lot. It's very closely aligned to what they do in national team programs. So if a player is selected to go from our program into the national team program, then there's nothing that should be foreign to them when they go into that situation. So the other thing is a strength and conditioning coach as well. So they didn't have that until the last 5 years or so. So starting off 20 years ago, 3 or 4 players at the park, never even got a full field. We'd get the side of a park or a corner of a field that someone else was training on, just doing skill stuff, to the progression of what we have now, which is very, very closely aligned with national team programs.
Well, originally was playing the game from about under 10s, and when I first started playing the game, I didn't know about female only football, so I was playing with boys. And then when I reached around 14 or 15 maybe, when I was not allowed to play with boys anymore, is when I realized that there was an actual girls representative team. From there, just building relationships. Some of the players where I first started, which was Nepean FC, and Lisa was there too. Where I first started, some of the players were starting to get into coaching. So I guess, it was just support and kind of looking up to them. And I injured myself, and it was going to be a long time before I could come back to actually playing. So I just started my coaching journey from there.
Did you love it when you first started? Was it something you're like, this is something I enjoy, or did
Absolutely. Absolutely. I knew it was what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Fantastic. Lisa?
So in 2001, I was playing in the old WNSL, which is the precursor to W League. And the coach actually asked me, could I take one of the zone teams? And I think because I was a high school teacher, so I just assume he thought that I work with children, so I was able to, so that's how I had to quickly go and get one of my licenses to start. And to be honest, if someone didn't ask me, I probably wouldn't have thought of it at that stage, because I was still playing like MPL1, playing W League, playing coaching, no names, Tiana Gauci at Nepean in the under 12s, and then coaching that program as well at the same time. Difference is that, without giving too much away, I was probably 30 at the time. So I might have considered it when I finished playing. And stop laughing, Kempson. I am coaching 16, 15-year-olds. So I'm probably not looking into that space at the moment. But you do see the players that ask lots of questions and think differently than other players. And you do think, like, long-term, that's where they might go. But I probably don't throw that on them yet.
I guess probably more recently I've got working with the Wanderers women's team. So, mentoring from obviously Catherine Canuli, Noelle Arate. I've been fortunate enough to do some stuff with Noelle and Alan Stajic as well. And also probably Tom Samani. So Tom Samani's been a bit of a support for me over the last few months as well. But yeah, I think, in terms of advice, you've just got to put yourself out there, to be honest. We are females in a male dominant sport, and I know that it is getting better, and we are trying to change it, and obviously the people on the call are doing a fantastic job to change that. But you have to put yourself out there. With Tommy as an example, I just put myself out there and went and spoke to him, and he's helping me with some things. And same with opportunities. I'm managing at the Wanderers at the moment. I'm not coaching, but it's a foot in the door. It's a networking opportunity. So just to take the opportunities that you can. And reach out to people, that or people in the call at the moment. Just reach out and see if there's anything that they can help you with.
Lots and lots of good advice there. Support all of that. Put yourself out there, take on opportunities, and I guess what this network's about, leaning on each other. So fantastic. Lisa, anything to add to that?
Apart from the fact that Nadine was my assistant coach 15 years ago, and I should probably just went without saying.
Lisa has been a massive mentor. Sorry.
When I first started, there was really not many female coaches around. So I think I just tapped into the things that worked for me as a player, or things that I appreciated or respected in coaches that I had previously. In regards to today, there's so many people out there that can help you. It's just a different world than it was 20 years ago. As I said, Nadine's always said, our door's always open at Institute. If you contact one of us, we can arrange for you to come and sit on a session one night. That's any of that's available, and there's so many people out there that will let you do that. So there's no excuse. You just need to ask. The worst that can happen is that someone says no.
Yeah, no, great question. I think this is happening at all levels of competition, definitely more and more. So we do have an athlete management system, which is called SmarterBase, which some of you may be aware of. Our requirement is that the girls must log they must log our sessions, but they also must log their school sessions or anything else that they're doing outside of our environment. With that, our strength and conditioning coach runs a daily report. That report logs any, red flags or any loading issues. With that as well, we try and work as closely as we can with the sports high schools. So as an example, we had I think it was just before COVID hit this year, we actually had a good conversation with the head of the school sports in New South Wales. And so we're starting to work on that. We'll have an MOU with them. So we're starting to work on that relationship as this issue is becoming more prevalent. So we'll work with them whereby, as an example, the school will be asked to provide us with their schedule. We will provide them in return with our schedule, and we will try and manage the loads and training sessions appropriately. So it might be, as well, we work on RPE. So it might be that if they've got a school session in the morning, the RPE for them in that session might only be a 3, and then when they come to us, it might, we might be working off, say, a 6 or a 7 as an example. But yeah, like I said, great question, and you need to manage it we do manage it in a variety of ways, but it's definitely not easy. And we do have to be very, very aware of the issue for sure. Lisa probably has a bit to add to that.
Yeah, I was just going to add something in the reverse direction, because I hear a lot of rumours, particularly in the boys space. We don't discourage any of our players from participating in school sport activities, athletics, carnivals, futsal tournaments, all those sorts of things. I hear a lot of rumours of as I said, it's predominantly in the boys' space where players are told, oh, if you play for us, you can't do this, this, and this. Okay. As the girls get older, they understand their bodies better and they understand the management, and that's part of the education that we have to give them. But they're encouraged not to miss out on things at school. Like some of these kids, they may not be good academically, but sport is the good thing there at school, so they should be able to participate in that and succeed at those levels for those activities. So we don't ever tell players to not participate. If there starts to be a regular flagging of a particular player, we'll have a chat with them, and then they'll make the decision, or their parent will make the decision on cutting down one session a week at school or something like that, so that we can manage it long term.
Some good stuff. And I guess just for those on the call, because not everyone will have access to SmartBase within their NPL clubs, you can use, I guess, Excel in terms of a load. So you create a template for your players, and you ask them off the RP system for them to calculate their load, and then that way you can also use a Google form for them to track, let you know how much sleep they've had, recovery, and then you can, I guess, have those conversations with parents if you need to, I guess, cut down a session, whether that's with you or with a school. But it's great that you guys are supporters of those other experiences and multi-sport, because it is, I guess, something I believe in as well. But I guess what I'm seeing is football's becoming all year round, and there's so many different football opportunities that they're playing football at school, they're playing football in a club, they play summer football, they play futsal, and they're missing that opportunity to play other sports.
I was actually thinking that myself, when I'm thinking how far it's come in 20 years, what will it do in another 10 years? And the person who's responsible for that program, Nadine, will probably be able to answer that. Long term, I understand the vision is that the A-League women clubs pick up the program. So the biggest issue at the moment is the reach of how many players we can get to. Okay, so in all of so some of our players are coming from below Wollongong to come up 4 days a week or 5 days a week up to the training program. I know obviously they've got Central Coast players coming down as well. It's a huge commitment for their families. So if we're able to extend the program and expand the program into other areas so it's more accessible to all players, then I think that's the biggest next step for us to take.
Brilliant. And I guess obviously clubs are one thing, but do you see a vision, I guess, a different way of doing things that has that in terms of like maybe a more of a hybrid approach, so they don't have to, families have to commit to that travel time?
Well, I think with Nadine knows a bit more about this than me, with the introduction of the TSP program is the bridging stone to try and connect the clubs with the Institute program, so that long term there is maybe not one central program, there's two or three. So with Central Coast coming into the A-League and long term possibly MacArthur Bulls coming into the A-League women as well, then you've got that access and that scope to get people geographically, that makes it easier for players and families to be able to get the benefits of the program, I guess.
Oh, brilliant. Nadine?
Yeah, no, exactly what Lisa said. The vision for me is that the A-League women clubs take over. So again, you're looking at, if you've got Wanderers for kids out in the west, you've got Sydney for the kids out in central Sydney areas, you've got Central Coast Mariners for kids that are north, and then you've got MacArthur Bulls for the kids that are down south. So I think definitely once the A-League women clubs are in a position to be able to take over, I think that is when women's football in New South Wales will just explode. But that's obviously it. Yeah, for sure. It is exciting, and I hope we get there sooner rather than later, to be honest. I mean, we're ready to kind of pass it off. I mean, we love what we're doing and love, to continue supporting the girls, which we will do still through, as Lisa mentioned, the Girls TSP program. So we'll continue to look after that next tier of players and again, try and get them to that next level of the A-League women.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Nadine and Lisa, for taking the time to chat to us and I guess share your insights and your experiences. It's very much appreciative. And like they said, they're an open book in regards to if you have questions. Nadine put her email up. I'm sure Sam will share it. So if you have any further questions, definitely reach out to Nadine. She'll be more than willing to help out.